Hi, my name is Gary Lewman. My work history is full of experience in different fields. In my early teens, I worked at a family restaurant and officiated youth baseball and soccer games. I've also worked in construction and was the manager of a retail store for nearly 3 years. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree from Webster University, where I majored in history. I chose history because I've always found it interesting how the events and decisions of the past have influenced the world that we see around us today. For the last 9 years, I've been an operating engineer for a company that helps coal-fired power plants meet the standards of the Clean Air Act. I like to think that this diverse work background and education helps me to be flexible while attacking different problems. I decided to join Savvy Coders after talking with a family friend. We were discussing how my work history and my education weren't exactly opening a bunch of new doors for me and didn't have me excited. So when she went into work, she talked to some of her web developers and she came back and suggested that I take Savvy Coders. So I joined the January cohort and just jumped right in. For my capstone project, I've decided to develop an app that would allow you to keep track of all the different things that go into keeping an aquarium healthy. The app would be a one-stop place for all your maintenance, past purchases, and any changes to the lighting, water chemistry, or flow that you've made. You could also upload all of your own pictures. So that way, not only it's easy to share with others, but it's a perfect way to compare those pictures with your change logs to make sure that the investments you've made or the changes that you made have actually been beneficial for your tank. The reason why I came up with this idea was because I have a couple of fish tanks of my own. And when I was doing maintenance on one, I couldn't remember the last time I had done something similar to the last tank. So I have all these different notebooks laying around and Post-its which have a tendency to get misplaced. So when I had the opportunity to come up with an app, I figured this would be perfect. I can keep everything in one spot, and that's how this idea was born. Share my screen. Okay, so the name of my app is TankMate. As I said before, it's a place to help keep track of all the different things that you do to your aquarium. So it's going to be an awful lot of logs. Here on my homepage, I have a to-do list and a shopping list. So the two main things. So each week or each month, you might want to kind of write down any ideas that you have that you want to do to your tank and just kind of keep track of it over time and add or eliminate things as you go. So, say here, I not only wanted to clean my skimmer and change my filter sock, maybe I wanted to add some carbon. So I can go to check and see, went ahead and saved it. And then you can go and check and see, hey, do I have enough carbon? If not, I have a shopping list right here. We're going to need carbon. There's nothing's worse than, especially during the pandemic, to go out and make a whole big trip to the store and get back and realize that you forgot one of the most important things. You got there, you got distracted, you saw some cool fish, and you're like, oh, that's a fun idea. And then you get home and realize you forgot fish food. So then you can go back out and do it again. So this would be a good place to keep track of everything, have it on your phone, and you're prepared. The next page I have is the logs page. So this is where you start getting a little deeper into things. So for your fish log, this would be perfect for whenever you buy a new fish. It's hard to remember what type of fish you may have bought, how much it was for, or where you even bought it from. But the important part of writing that down is not all fish get along. And that was one thing that took me a while to learn myself. Was I just saw a pretty new fish and was like, hey, I'm going to throw that in there. And it ended up killing everything, or something else attacked it. So this is a good place so you can just write down the names, because all the names can get confusing. You can write down all the names and keep track of what you already have in your tank and ask for suggestions when you get to the store. Same thing for the equipment log. The equipment, there's a lot of different kinds of equipment that go into keeping an aquarium, and it can get quite expensive. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have an equipment log to make sure that the equipment that you're buying is lasting as long as it should. You don't want to be buying a brand new $200 piece of equipment every year. So, and if you can't remember when the last time you bought it was, it's hard to keep track of just how well things are working. So if it's not working or lasting as long as you would like, maybe I need to make an upgrade. The same thing with plants and corals is the same with fish. Some corals have stingers. Some corals use a spray to deter predators. So you have to be careful what kind of corals you mix into an aquarium, because the last thing you want is to put a coral that emits toxins next to a coral that has a stinger, because at night one coral's gonna sting the other, and then it's gonna shoot out toxins, and then who knows what kind of problems you're gonna have from there. So it's just another good place to keep track of everything you have. And then finally over here, you have the changes log. So just kind of keep track of any of the changes. So this would be a good way whenever you put your pictures up eventually. This might be the log you want to come back to. Hey, what change did I make on what day compared to the picture? Hey, how does it look a week or two on after those changes? Down here, I have purchases. Just kind of to keep track of how much you spent, where you spent it at, and for future iterations, maybe add a function to where you can actually add up all the different costs that you've spent on each tank per se, and you kind of get an idea so you can kind of budget things a little bit better because things can get expensive quick. And if you're anything like me, when you go to a store, you can get easily distracted into buying something. On to my next page. This one is coming soon. This will be a charts page. It'll have compatibility charts for those fish that you're going to want to log, or your corals that you're going to want to log. However, I thought I might be able to get a company to allow me to use their charts, but it hasn't been as easy as I thought. So I'm just gonna have to build my own. So I've got a couple ideas for that. So that's coming up in a future iteration. On my next page is the pictures page. So right here, I just have a couple of pictures that I uploaded of my own tanks. So this is my freshwater tank where I just kind of had random pictures where I was building it, and then a finished product, and some older pictures of my saltwater tanks, just kind of to give an example of things, but then just also over a period of time to compare. This is interesting just to look back at it now, what my tanks look like. So down here, I have a form where you could enter your picture, give a description, and it should render to the page. And I'll be honest, this has been one thing that's been a big struggle, has been trying to find a way to pull the URL and have it display. So that will also be in one of my next iterations. Next is my about page. So this just kind of lets the user kind of know what I have in mind. Make sure that you put as much information in there as possible. The more information, the better. So you can't go wrong if you put a little extra in. And then finally, my plan is to have a login page. So that way all your information can be saved and you can always refer back to it. My site has been deployed on Netlify. And when I access my APIs back here, I connect those to the backend through MongoDB. I also use CSS, HTML, and JavaScript to use all the languages to build this. Some of the biggest struggles I've had was trying to get my APIs to communicate from the backend to the front end and to actually make these things come back. When I came up with a project idea that I wanted to try to just keep it simple, for not only my own sake, but that's also just kind of what I would want in an app as well. I just want to be able to log stuff. So it ended up being a little harder than I thought, but I've done this about 7 times now. So I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on connecting at least the documentation part of an API. The other part, as I said earlier, was trying to get my pictures page to load actual users' pictures. So that's something I'm really going to work on. Another thing that really helped was something I learned through the Agile methodology, was using a Kanban board. So I have a Trello account and I have a couple Kanbans on here. I've actually liked it so much that you can see here, I actually have a project board for my wife and I, which I think might drive her a little crazy, but I like using all the new cards and checklists and just kind of moving along and decorating our list. So here is my Trello board for the tank mate here. So I just have my completed stuff. My CSS is actually done. Still working on my pictures, but here also is where I have my backlog of all my future things that I want to do. So some of the things that I want to do is add a chart, as I said before, make it more mobile responsive, add a map. So when someone's coming in from out of town or you live in an area that doesn't have a lot of fish stores, you can just have a map on the page that shows you all the fish stores that are in the vicinity of where you're going, so you can kind of plan out your day. And then a couple of things that get me really excited are the idea of a slideshow or even a time-lapse video of all your pictures. I got the idea when I was watching a documentary on Netflix, like David Attenborough kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting to put all your pictures together and actually have them play as kind of a movie, so you can kind of even see things grow in real time. To your eyes, so you can even identify any problem areas or areas that you're doing really well. Or it's fun to watch something grow because some of these take a long time to grow. Finally, I'd like to add a chat, just because if you're having a problem with something, I guarantee you someone else has had a problem too, and there are message boards all over the place that have people that have had similar problems and how they were able to fix them. So finally, my journey has been quite interesting. Prior to this, my experience with computers and web pages was just basic interactions, and I'd never seen code before in my life. So this has been an emotional roller coaster for me, where there were times where I wasn't sure, and then now I just feel like I've at least come such a long way that I feel like I can answer some basic questions for myself, or at least learn how to find the answers to what I'm looking for. So in conclusion, I'd just like to thank everyone again for coming today and allowing me to share this exciting new chapter in my life.